Disclaimer. The content presented in this program is entirely satire, and the mainstream media always tells the truth. COVID was true, and you should be vegan, and everything James Devon Johnson says isn't real, and James has not achieved any real-world success and is very financially poor. Do not use these words against him in court because the entire show is satire, and he really loves President Biden and feminists. James thinks that federal agents are very respectable people who are not fat nerds. Please do not take this program seriously and get your booster injections as soon as possible.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the JD Show. Tonight we have a very interesting episode for you guys. It's date night Thursday, of course. So in the house, I have the lovely Tori. Tori, thank you so much for coming on. And this is actually our first time meeting. Little backstory, we matched on Tinder, ended up taking things over to Instagram. She absolutely loved everything about me, who I am, the content that I post. She seems very serious about, potentially starting something with me. So this is technically our first date interview, and I'm really excited. I'm sure she's even more excited. With that being said, Tori, thank you again for coming on. Why don't you go ahead, give the audience a little bit about your background and why you decided to come on to the show today.
Okay, my name is Tori Campbell. I am 20 years old and I am currently a pre-med college student. I'm going on to my senior year in college. I'm from Northern California and I'm only here for the summer to take probably the hardest college classes that there are, Organic Chemistry 1 and 2. And I came on here, and I just would like to preface that the whole Tinder thing with the whole match thing, I like to do this thing where it's 4 swipes left, 1 swipe right. You got lucky. And then the reason why I am on here, I don't know, it seemed kind of fun, I guess. That's it.
Okay.
And I guess, I like arguing, so.
Yeah, no, we've been going back and forth on Instagram quite a bit. Obviously, you're very supportive of everything that I post, and we have some awesome conversations.
Yeah.
So I think this will be really cool.
I know, I'm in total agreement with all of your beliefs, actually.
I like it. Great. It's perfect when we have someone who just, agrees with everything that I say.
Yeah,
so.
I know, makes it an easy episode.
I want to start with this. So right off the bat, based on, what we know about each other so far, I want to give each other a rating between 1 to 10 on a scale of how desirable you are for dating. And then we're going to reevaluate each other at the end of our conversation.
Okay.
So would you like me to go first, or would you like to?
I'll let you go first.
Okay. So I would put you at a 5.
Ooh, interesting.
Now, the reason why I put you at a 5, and a 5 isn't necessarily bad, but it's obviously not good, right? 5 is because you're young, you're going to school, which is actually an incredible achievement, by the way, getting into pre-med, you're only 20 years old, but you also seem to know everything, at least that's the vibe that you give. So it tells me if I were to get into a long-term relationship with you, we'd constantly be struggling back and forth to wear the pants in the relationship, which is something that I wouldn't want to deal with. Other than that, you're very well spoken. You have a lovely personality. I like your appearance too. So yeah, it's definitely right there in the middle for me.
Okay. So, desirability. I feel like there's a lot of factors there. I don't know you well enough. If I would go based on just what I have seen on your Instagram, it'd probably be in the negatives. Mm-hmm. But from our conversations on Instagram and Messenger, I have, or just Instagram in general, I'd say, yeah, maybe 5. I'm probably going to go 1 lower just because you said 5, so I'm going to go 4. I'm going to go with the 4.
All right. Well, if you think 5, go ahead, just speak your mind. We can be straight up with each other. It doesn't have to be about 1-upping or 1 downing,
Yeah, you're right. Let's go 2 down. I'll give you 3.
Okay, perfect. 3 it is then.
Yeah.
Deal. And why would you rate a 3?
Oh yeah, I didn't explain. I feel like we're kind of the opposite in the same way that we're kind of the same, where I feel we're both very strong in our opinions and we're not going to be swayed out of those opinions. And whereas your opinion is, man this, and men should run the relationship, or I'm a high value man. And I feel like using those words exactly make me go all, ew, this is the kind of person he is. And I don't really like that.
Okay, so do you not like a man to be in charge when you're in a relationship?
There, in certain aspects, yeah.
Okay, what are those aspects?
You know the aspects.
No,
Everyone
I don't.
knows. Yes, you do.
Well, explain the aspects
bedroom,
to me.
in the bedroom. But other than that, I feel like it should be equal.
What does equal look like?
What do you mean? Oh, so you're saying, so
So
women want this, but they don't want to pay, or
Well,
women don't want
you're
this.
saying that men should only be in charge in the bedroom, but everything outside the bedroom in a relationship should be equal play field?
I wouldn't say everything is considered equal. I'd say the addition of everyone's roles would be equal. So like maybe they do have roles, but together it's equal. If that makes sense.
Still having a hard time understanding. And I think this kind of goes back to why my opinion is women don't actually know what they really want. And that's why it's up for a man to really develop himself, but like every single way possible, intellectually, intelligence, physically, obviously, life experience in general, so he can actually lead and show a woman what she really wants. Because just as you're showing, for example, seems like you don't really know. You're just talking out your ass right now.
Seems like you're talking out your ass because you are saying that, okay, a man, he should, what were you saying? You were saying what physically he should
Yeah,
be,
every
intellectually.
single aspect,
So
a
you're
man should
saying
develop
you
himself
want
so
a
he can lead.
dumb, ugly girl because if she's dumb and ugly, she doesn't have to lead. She doesn't have to be worried about being smart or intellectual because, I mean, that's what she's focused on. That's the man's job, right? Is that what you're saying?
No. So, hold on, that was a little confusing now. So you're trying to throw in just ugly girls don't need to...
No, you said that you feel like men should lead because they should work on being intellectual. They should work on themselves, working out, things like that. Are you saying that women shouldn't? And
No,
that's the
women
reason
should
why-
absolutely do that. No, I'm saying it's extra important for men so men can be a proper leader. Like, imagine getting into a relationship with a dude when you're actively working on yourself. Like, you're going to school, you're also, staying in shape, you're trying to eat healthy, right? And maybe not eating healthy, but imagine being with a dude who's just not even on that same wavelength. How's that relationship going to work for you in your head?
I see it more as we should both focus on that. That should be equally important. I don't see why being intellectual or working on yourself should be more of a men's role than a woman's.
Why not, though? Like, you want a strong, competent man.
I want a man who I see, like the way that I see myself, I want to see that in a man. So if I feel like maybe, like physically, if I think I'm like an 8, I want a man who's an 8. If I see that, I want a man that I can argue with and a man that can match me intellectually. So I'm not going to want a stupid guy, yeah. But I also don't want a guy who thinks he's smarter than me, in which that's where the whole like mansplaining comes in, where he thinks that he knows everything. And so he tries to explain everything to me when I feel like I already know quite a bit. And so it's more like a level field.
I like how you said you already know quite a bit. So this goes to my first thing. You already think you know everything, right? But it's not really true. You don't know everything.
No, I
You're
mean,
20
when
years
I'm
old and you're
talking
still
about
figuring
that,
things out. So if you're going to get into a relationship, wouldn't you want a guy who like already knows a little bit more so he can take the lead? That doesn't mean that the man has to put you down and, disrespect you in some type of way. Like I said, I think you're actually a really incredible woman and I respect you, definitely. But if we were to be in a relationship, I would 100% be the leader and I would expect you to follow my lead.
When I said that I feel like I know quite a bit and I want a man to match me intellectually, I mean I want a man who college educated. I feel like I don't want anyone below me, but anyone too high, I feel like that's a little.
What does college education have to do with it?
Well, you pointed out when I said I feel like I know quite a bit. When I was talking about I know quite a bit, and when I think about intellectual, I'm thinking of, I mean, college educated, that doesn't really matter. People can get that anywhere. I see what you mean. They don't need to be college educated. But I mean, for what I'm studying, for the things that I want to do, I want to be a doctor. I don't want to come home and then I'm talking to someone, they have no idea what I'm talking about. Like I'm struggling with organic chemistry right now, and I can say organic chemistry to someone, and they have no idea what I'm talking about. So I don't want that to be the case.
So you'd want to, narrow in your dating pool to like someone who's in the industry that you're in or the career field that you're in, medical-wise?
No, I just want them to be more aware or at least willing to learn, versus when I see like a man like you, when I feel like you're not willing to learn much. Like we literally had a conversation about doctors, and you were like, well, doctors kill people. And then I feel like that was a really small-minded thing when there's more than
No, I
just
was
one
referring
type
to
of
medical
doctor.
malpractice. So again, there is never anything, like there's never dark without the light, right? Yin and yang. There's equal balance amongst every aspect of life. So you're saying that, doctors are so important because they save lives. But I was pointing out they actually end up killing a lot of people. Look at the medical malpractice stats in the
Exactly, yeah.
US. That's a lot of people dying.
And that's when I felt like it was very small-minded, because when I'm talking about doctors, there's so many kinds of doctors that don't even deal with health situations. There's therapists, there's professors who are considered doctors. There are many different doctorate fields. So for you to say, well, there's medical malpractice, but we're not just talking about medical doctors. There's many different kinds of doctors. And I feel like immediately when you heard doctor, you went on the defense like, oh, she wants to be a doctor. Well, she thinks she's better than me, or I mean, doctors save lives. And when I had said, I mean, doctors save lives, therapists save lives without killing anyone. And so for medical malpractice to be the topic that you bring up, I feel like it's more narrow than what I was referring to.
No, see, we'd have to go like back and dive into that conversation more, because I think it started with I don't know, you're making a comment about what was it? It was
I think it was the podcast thing where I was like, I mean, if people like
oh, I
you
think
would
I was
extinct-
talking to you about like all the lives that I've saved through my nonprofit, like helping veterans with mental health and stuff. But I mean, anyway, like yeah, I can't really remember that conversation too well to elaborate on it. But
I can.
But back to the main point though, like you want somebody not necessarily in the same career field, but is willing to like have a conversation and learn everything about.
Not everything. I just want to be able, I mean, at the end of the day, you want to come home, you want to share what happened. And if someone's like, what's that? What's that at every point? It's kind of like, okay, you're kind of stupid. Or like even, I mean, there are certain topics that
How does
a
that make
layperson
somebody
should
stupid
know.
because they don't know about medical science in particular? Elon Musk, I'm sure he knows very little about medical science, but he's arguably one of the most intelligent people in the world right now. He's developing new technology that no one else could possibly even imagine, right? So does that make somebody stupid because they lack knowledge in a particular subject?
No, not at all. But when I'm referring to, there are certain things that just a layperson should know. And so if I'm talking to someone and they never maybe care to find out common knowledge, like if you're saying like sutures and someone's like, oh, what's that? I feel like that's again a common knowledge.
Yeah, so again, like a common knowledge thing, I totally get that. I dated a chick who didn't know which side Hitler was on. That was a huge turnoff to me because, like, again, common knowledge type stuff, right? But yeah, so common knowledge, obviously that's going to be applicable. But, you know, getting more so in depth to the nitty gritty of medical science, I feel like for you, that's not actually something you're going to really consider getting into a relationship.
I feel like that is something I'm considering, because especially in what I'm doing right now, I find it so convenient when I am dating or talking to someone who's doing something similar to me, because I'm always busy. So like my last boyfriend, we were together, we met at college, and he wants to be a chiropractor. And so we took many of the same classes, and I remember when I would talk to other people, I'd be like, this is heavily convenient for me having I'm busy all the time. Like the majority of my time is spent in school or outside of school studying. So for someone who goes to the same college as me, convenient. Someone who is just like studying the same things as me, it's convenient because they can understand like, oh, I can't come out right now, I'm studying. I can't do this because, you know, there's some things that are more important. So that is what I'm looking for, because I know that if I'm with someone who is outside of that or someone who isn't like nearby, it makes it more hard to like be with them, proximity wise as well.
Right. So I could definitely see why you think that for, you know, the stage that you're in life right now.
Exactly.
But long term, like once you're done with school and you're in the workforce and you're actually like looking to settle down eventually, that's not going to matter too much.
Who's to say I don't want to settle down prior to that?
No, you want to settle down while you're
No,
in school?
not at all. No, that idea sounds horrible. But I mean, that's way. I mean, you can meet someone in college, you can stay with them long term. So I'm not exactly looking for that right now. But like you said, in the stage of my life, it's different than what it would be 10 years, 5 years from now.
Right. So why don't you do this for me? Why don't you describe, like, if you could build a man, build your perfect ideal man. Like, start with his appearance. Like, how tall would he be? What would he look like? And then let's go and list some other character aspects.
So when you're describing the physicality of it, I mean, obviously everyone has a type. They won't always admit it, but they have a type. And I also have a type, but I've noticed that that's not what matters to me when it comes down to it. And I've noticed that that's the difference between men and women. When I'm talking to my guy friends, they obviously focus so much more on personality. And when they want to understand why I'm with someone who maybe isn't the most physically attractive or objectively speaking, just like not attractive. Versus like for me, personality is like so important to me.
Yeah.
So I could describe my perfect man and physical, like the physical part of him, but that's, I mean,
So what do we look like?
unrealistic.
Are we talking like minimum 6 feet tall?
No, I
No?
mean,
So you date someone short?
yeah, I've told you I've dated someone who's 5'8", and I'm almost, how tall do you think I am?
That's a good question. Shit, I don't even remember our first hug. You must be like 5'6".
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm almost 5'7". Yeah, exactly that. So, yeah, I've dated someone who in like Uggs, I'm taller than him. And that's not something, I mean, obviously growing up before you get a boyfriend, you're like, oh yes, I want this, I want this. But then you get in a relationship and you're like, this doesn't really matter.
But if we're talking about building your ideal man, again, like you can build him from the ground up. Like, would you want him to be taller?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Taller than me though is like my minimum because I mean, I feel like men are getting shorter nowadays.
Yeah, it does seem that
Yeah,
way,
it does, doesn't it? Especially my school, the major demographic is a shorter race. It's majorly Asians. And so I feel like I'm like average height for a male there.
Oh,
So, yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
What school is it again?
University of the Pacific.
Oh, okay. Very cool. So how many more years left do you got in that?
My last year.
Oh, okay.
I'm starting my last year in August.
And then it's full med
This year.
school.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. So you're definitely ahead of the game. No, that's cool. Good for you. But anyway, back to like building.
Oh yes, building my
your
perfect
dude.
man. Okay.
Does ethnicity
Tall.
matter? Do you care like what color he is?
I do have a preference, but I'm not going to say it.
Why not?
I'm not going to say it. But
Why not?
Maybe not on camera. I'll tell you. But
Okay.
So dark hair. I love dark hair. Tall, nice body. Again, my ideal person. I don't want to name someone who's like has all the things I don't have. So I don't want to name a bunch of things that he has and I won't. So I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, he has to be rich. He has to do like, no, he has to be like perfect shape. No, I want someone who can match me. If I look like I go to the gym, I want a guy who looks like he goes to the gym. If I have like what a guy would seem like he likes, like if he likes my ass or if he likes like any part of me, I want that in a man, like the equivalent of that in a man. So like I like a nice chest and arms. And currently a beard, I think, when I'm imagining my perfect man. And then qualities, that's hard because prior to getting in a relationship, I always thought that I wanted a dominant guy. And then I got into a relationship and I realized that this is something that I know, like, even now I'm like, oh yes, I would love a guy who's like dominant and all these things. But then I'm in a relationship and I'm like, oh wait, knowing how I am, if there's a guy who's going to try and tell me what to do, we're going to butt heads all the time. So it's more equal. And so I want a guy who's like that. And I like obsession.
I don't want to cut you off, but you know what I've noticed about women who are dating a man where they don't want to follow their lead and their advice is because they don't respect him. So would you say you didn't have like a full respect for the boyfriend that you had?
Are you saying you can't respect someone without not wanting to follow them?
Well, just when it comes to female nature, when a woman is truly like head over heels for the man that they're with and they have a great amount of respect for that man, they're willing to sacrifice certain things about them in order to please the man. Like I've seen this firsthand, and you know, there's a lot of psychology behind it too. I'm sure you've taken a few psychology classes and learned about the different aspects between how a woman's brain works and a man's brain works. And it's just basic science that, you know, a woman who is attracted to a man and has that respect for him, she's going to want him to lead and is willing to follow.
I don't always agree. You said that there are some things that a woman should be willing to give up if they really like a man. But what if you're with a man who doesn't ask of you to give this up? And that's the kind of man that I want. I want a man who's not going to be like, oh yes, she has to follow me. She has to. I grew up with that. My father, he is the man in the relationship with my mother. And growing up, seeing that, I remember always seeing like, this is not what I want. I don't want a man who's going to be able to kind of have veto power over me, especially when it came to like children. So I would ask my mom for something and she would say something and then my dad would say something else and his word was the law. And that's not what I liked. And growing up, as you can tell from my personality, I butt heads a lot with my father. And even now we will get in arguments because we don't agree. And we actually, with my previous boyfriend, he gave us this whole lecture on, well, a man needs a woman and you need him and he needs you and all this. And then when I come up with a very logical argument where I was saying, well, technically, he was like, you need a man. If you want kids, you need a man. And I was like, well, you can just have a man's sperm. And then he goes, well, the Bible says, and it's just like, well, how do you argue with that? But it just seems illogical to say that you need that, or you need a man who leads, and you don't respect him if you don't lead, if you don't follow him, because I don't find that to be true.
I've never met a woman though who doesn't follow their man who actually like fully respects him. Seen it firsthand. I've never met a single one, and I work with and during my time I've worked with thousands of women probably, and I've gotten to know thousands of women, and those who were single, had a boyfriend, like married sometimes. Every single one, if their man wasn't like a true alpha who was in charge of the relationship, they didn't fully respect him, and they'd go and do things like not necessarily cheat, but things that didn't really, reflect them respecting their man, if that makes sense.
Well, why does it have to be that way anyways? Why, I feel like you're putting a very monogamous and binary box on something when you yourself don't even follow along with monogamy.
Well, again, like sex is different for men and women, right? So if you want to get into the topic of monogamy, my argument is it is not important for men to be monogamous because of the different dynamic behind sex. When a woman is not monogamous, it is absolutely devastating for the relationship that she's in.
Horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, hey, life's unfair, but it's true. When a woman has sex with a man, no matter how close she is giving a part of herself to that man. There is a chemical response in her brain that is developing the slightest bit of attachment, and that stays with her. For men, we don't give off that same chemical response unless we are actually in love with a woman.
Do you mind if I ask what chemical? Or what is the science? You said basic science. You love to bring that up.
Yes.
The basic science behind this. Because are you talking about dopamine, oxytocin?
Oxytocin.
You're saying men don't get oxytocin from orgasms? Because they do.
So women release oxytocin during sex no matter what. Men will release oxytocin when they're in love with a woman.
That is not true.
How's that not true?
Because oxytocin is released with orgasms.
No,
Technically speaking, yeah, you want to bet? I'm so serious.
No. So, oh my gosh, now I need to bring in my study notes from my psychology classes.
Okay. Because please, I'd love to hear. Because...
Well, you're more well versed, so why don't you go ahead and break it down for me a little bit?
Okay.
Because I know this for a fact.
Okay, so during an orgasm, you release dopamine inhibitors as well as oxytocin, and it's just during an orgasm as well. And for a woman, you release prolactin and some other. It's not serotonin. Serotonin isn't released during orgasm, but it is prolactin. Which whenever I think prolactin, I think breastfeeding. But anyways, so
you don't even know yourself.
What do you mean?
You don't even know fully yourself.
No, I mean, I don't know the route of it. Like,
yeah.
The hormone comes from.
So I guess you're not as well versed as I thought.
I mean, not as someone who's maybe studied this their entire lives. I've studied it for the past 3 years of my life, but I'd say I know more about these hormones that are being released.
So can you tell me there is a great difference between the hormones being released from a woman versus a man?
No, because during sex, that's not the case.
Because a lot of the studies, too, that you're learning in school are actually based on old knowledge. So it depends on which textbooks that you're getting.
That's actually a really great point, based on old knowledge, because when you think the majority of medical science in general is based off of a man. So me telling you that oxytocin is released, it's probably based off of a man. When you're saying it's based on old things, you know how the small percentage of women that are included in these studies, or how long it takes a woman to be diagnosed with something versus a man, and how the cardiac arrest symptoms in a man are different from a woman, and they're still being figured out now because there's so little on women in general?
Right. No, that's my point. There's constantly new information coming out. So again, like I don't like memorize this stuff, so that's why I can't recite like word from word. I don't study medical science. I don't have that time. But based on like my research I've done for the podcast, plus also previously, studying psychology in college, like I literally got to explore the difference between what's written in a lot of these old textbooks, which most colleges and universities are still using doctrine that's almost 10 years old. Now, some have caught up and they have newer material, but you can find studies online that are much more current, which actually show the difference. That's the point that I'm getting at.
Yeah, but when I am saying that oxytocin is released from an orgasm, period, I'm not saying it's more is released from a woman or it's not released from a man at all. I'm saying that it's released from both during an orgasm. And I would bet money on this.
Here, let's look it up.
I'm so serious.
Let's
Please.
look it up. Let's pull it up.
Okay.
Let's pull it up.
Let's go. Okay. Are you ready? Because females often have higher levels than males, but they both release it during the orgasm.
Yeah, so that's actually like my exact point. So if you could find like the recent studies that show the actual numbers, it's like significantly higher than men. So it creates like a pair bonding experience for a woman where the amount of oxytocin released from a dude doesn't create the pair bonding experience.
Okay.
The man only releases the same oxytocin level as a woman when he's actually in love. So that's where like the old studies get confusing because they're basing it on romantic people. Now they recently started studying different groups of people, so like groups of single women, single men, and men and women in relationships. So yeah, we're able to confirm like, yeah, both release oxytocin, but the levels from a woman releasing oxytocin is significantly greater, and that's with casual sex. That's my main point. So sex is extremely different for men and women.
Okay, so I would like to point out, and I'm so glad that when you play this back, it'll show that you said oxytocin was not released in males at all. And now you're changing your stance once I said an orgasm will produce
so again, I was right. Now, the context in which I said it, I made an error. But overall, my point is correct. So I'm sure you just read similar things that I just pulled up off the top.
Yeah, we should have read them out.
So, the numbers significantly more to the point where it creates the pair bonding experience for women, where it doesn't create the pair bonding experience for men. That's the significant difference there.
So you're saying since women with sex, they fall in love more, they should be monogamous?
Oh, yeah. So getting back to the idea between monogamy for men and women, right? Men, they could be head over heels for a woman, right? And because of the way that we're designed. Now, again, like there's a lot of people who are extremely religious that, they put God first in their relationship. So they truly don't have the need to go outside of that relationship. But typically speaking, most men, if they could press a button and have sex with whoever they want without any consequences to it damaging their relationship, they would choose to do so because sex registers differently in our brains. When a man goes and has a random hookup, it doesn't mean jack shit. When a woman does it, there's a lot of thought process behind it. So when a woman steps out of a relationship and she cheats, it doesn't just happen on a whim. Like, she may try to say, oh yeah, I was just drunk and sloppy at the bar and things happen. No, women plan it, like they think about it for a long time. They talk about it with their friends. When a man does it, it's literally an accident, like slipping into some pussy. No thought process behind it, means absolutely nothing. So in a relationship, if a woman cheats, that means there's a significant disconnect in that relationship where she no longer respects the man she's with and is potentially looking for an out. Where when a man steps out and cheats, he doesn't necessarily want to end things in that relationship with a woman. He just wants some variety.
Okay, so how does this correlate to men don't need to be monogamous? You're saying, okay, so women, they fall in love more with sex. Mm-hmm. But what about that is stopping men from being monogamous to a woman and faithful to her? Because you're saying, well, a woman slips out of a relationship, she doesn't respect him. How is he showing her that he respects her when he's like, yeah, I'm willing to betray your trust or make you upset?
I don't condone lying and I don't condone cheating. And in my history, I have lied and I have cheated. Yes, exactly. I will admit to it. I have lied and I have cheated in my life. But ever since my marriage, I decided I'm going to be completely truthful with whoever I'm with. And that's the way I live my life. So I think as long as you're honest about it, it's okay. Again, it's not good to deceive, but still, there are a lot of men out there who still choose to cheat, lie, deceive, And I think it's important to understand the difference of what happens in their head versus what happens in a woman's head when she decides to cheat. It's a completely different thought process.
Okay.
Women get so utterly angry and just foul towards the man that they're with when he cheats because she thinks about it from her perspective. She's thinking, well, if I went out and cheated, it'd just be an entirely different thought process. Like, I wouldn't necessarily have that same respect and love with him. But for a man, it's just not the same.
You're saying he wants variety. So why would that not make her feel like I'm not enough for him? I'm not enough variety for him. I feel like, and then what you said, it's not lining up with monogamy at all. We're talking about monogamy. And then you're basically talking about an ethical, non-monogamous relationship, at least open on the male side, which isn't what we're talking about. I'm talking about a monogamous relationship. You're saying that women, they have to be monogamous, but what you haven't said anything yet to support why a man doesn't have to be monogamous or like can't be monogamous.
Well, it's just not as important for a man to be monogamous as it is important for a woman to be monogamous. A relationship can survive if the man isn't monogamous, but a relationship is utterly doomed if the woman isn't monogamous.
It's not always true. There have been successful relationships where both have cheated or just the woman has cheated.
So actually, this is a really interesting point I'm glad you brought up. Now, I'm trying to remember, brain doesn't work with numbers, but it was like 90, I think I'm going to say it was like 97% of polyamorous relationships don't work out. So the vast majority don't work out. But then there are some supporting studies, very minimal, but they're out there that indicate men specifically who are poly. In those relationships, they last longer. But the ones where either both the man and the woman are stepping out or it's like just the woman, those are the ones that fall into the 97% failure rate.
Well, then that's not considered cheating. If you're looking at polyamorous relationships, you're not looking at cheating. You're looking at an open relationship. I'm talking about specifically monogamous relationships. I want to know why you're saying a man shouldn't be in one or can't be in one.
No, a man can absolutely be in one. And I know some incredible dudes who are actually about what they say, who are in fact in truly monogamous relationships. And I give them all the praise in the world. I think that's incredible, especially those guys who are devout to God. Like, I know some Christians who are so in love with God, Jesus. They put him first and then everything else second. So like in their relationship, God comes first, wife is second, and they are both on that same page. And the men will still admit they have temptation, but because their relationship with God is so strong, not the relationship with who they're with, but with God, is the reason why they're able to remain monogamous. Now, for men who aren't that devout in their religion, and again, there's a lot of like fake Christians out there, fake Christian men who will say, oh, no, I'm completely monogamous to my wife, but they don't desire monogamy. They'll either be addicted to pornography, or if they're able to, they'll actually be stepping out on the side, but they'll keep it a secret.
I feel like that's implying that it sounded like a lot of what you were saying was based off of Christian relationships, when there are men who are atheists or don't believe in any higher power who can be monogamous. What I really want to know is why I wanted to address the earlier topic where it was men shouldn't have to be monogamous because they don't release this love hormone. Like, why? Okay?
I'm not saying they shouldn't have to be. I'm saying it's not needed in order for a relationship to survive.
I wouldn't say that either. It depends on what both wants. If the woman is okay with that's an open relationship, that's what it would be. That's
right.
What we're defining it.
It does need to be discussed, but getting back into agreeing to a monogamous relationship, because of the differences in sex and how a man's brain works versus how a woman's brain works, we already confirmed that it is in fact different, right? My point is, if a man cheats, that doesn't have to be the end all of the relationship. But if a woman does cheat, that relationship is doomed like 99% of the time because of the difference in the thought process behind it. And I think you can agree, like thinking back into your relationship, if you were to have stepped out on that man, what would be going on in your head? Like, he'd give you the ick somehow, right? Obviously, no respect. And a lot of other things go wrong in order for you to make that decision, where if he stepped out, he probably is just being a fucking dumbass and got something else.
No, that's the total opposite, actually.
Okay.
Which is, maybe it's, I mean, I know that my relationship isn't, I mean, no relationship is the same. And I thought, like, from meeting me already, you would expect, like, how I am in a relationship.
How are you in a relationship?
Amazing.
Are you
No.
monogamous?
Yes, I am. I mean, would I date myself? No, of course not. But
Why? Well, that's interesting. Tell me why you wouldn't date yourself.
because I'm possessive, I'm hypocritical, and I'm petty. But I also chalk a lot of that to immaturity. I'm young. I haven't been in many relationships. But no, I wouldn't be with me. Yeah, no, I wouldn't. But in my previous relationship, it wasn't like that at all. I mean, he was obsessed with me, and I love that. That's like, in my ideal man, I need a man who's obsessed with me, which is why I don't see, like, for me, him cheating, end all be all.
Do you know why women will say that they prefer a man who's obsessed with them? Because it gives them that security. And this is another reason to why a lot of men don't cheat when they are in a relationship with a woman they're head over heels with, is because of a scarcity factor. They don't get a lot of women. So when they finally do, they will do anything in their power to cling on to it, right? And women can pick up on that energy. And I know you're thinking in your head right now, like, yeah, I picked up on that energy, and that's why you liked it, because you felt secure in that relationship. But I bet you is also a little bit boring.
In what aspect? What's boring? What are you calling boring?
I feel like you lacked a certain excitement in that relationship.
I'm not saying I'm going. Okay, so when I was growing up,
You
I'm not
just say
saying
yes.
No, I'm saying I'm not saying. Oh, fuck, I forgot my line of thinking there. Oh wait, repeat what you said so it can refresh my brain.
I was saying that your man was like head over heels with you, so you felt very secure with him because he's probably the type of guy who maybe didn't get a lot of other women, and when he finally got you, he would do anything he could in order to keep you around. And it gives off a certain energy, right? So it made you feel secure, but at the same time, it made you a little bit bored because of how secure you felt.
Oh yeah, okay. So I don't agree with the boredom coming from me being secure in my relationship. I feel like that's what someone should want in their relationship. I feel like that should add more excitement to your relationship.
But
if
boredom
you
came
were
from
secure.
somewhere else, right? Because of the type of guy that he is.
I just found him immature. That was it. That was
Yeah.
where it came from. Yeah, but it wasn't. I mean, it's not immature to love only one woman.
No, it's not immature to only love one woman, right?
But that's what I'm
just saying, with a man like that in general, they're going to give off other types of energies that's going to turn you off. So, like, the immaturity thing, I'm sure it's tied to that same type of energy, which, in turn, you got turned off a little bit.
What type of energy? What about that? I mean, what's the turn off here? What are you saying turn me off?
Like that clingy energy. It kind of probably highlighted a lot of
I
other
love
aspects.
clingy. Clingy is amazing. I want someone who only is my friend. I don't want you to have friends.
It's not going to last long term. How long did it last?
How long do you think it lasted?
Let's see, you're 20 years old. What, you met him in college?
I don't know.
Actually, I feel like you've told me in our DMs.
I did, probably, but I'm not
Yeah.
going to say.
Less than a year.
That's what you think?
Mhm.
What would make you think that?
Am I wrong?
No, wait, please, before I answer, please let me know what makes you think that.
Well, you're 20 years old. You met in college, right? It sounds like you haven't built like too many memories. Again, I don't know you too well, right? This is based off of our text back and forth. So I'm just going to put it like under a year.
But why? I want to know what makes you, what about this relationship gives off that vibe that it wouldn't last longer than a year?
Based off of what you told me.
Okay, so 2.5 years.
Okay, 2.5
Which
years.
is very long for my age, obviously. Yeah, 2.5 years. And I would say we built a lot of memories. And the boredom wouldn't stem from
But you also
security.
mentioned you had a glow up recently, right?
Yes, that was a part of it.
See?
I'm not even going to lie, that was a part of it.
Yeah.
It wasn't, hey, who said it was recently? I said I grew up ugly. I'm not that young, but I had a horrible gap. I was hideous, bad eye, like I was just very, very ugly. And then once I didn't get any male attention in high school, and then outside of high school I start getting it, and then I'm starting I'm calling like my hoe phase, even though, I mean, I didn't do anything sexual, anything penetrative with any of these men until I had met my boyfriend. And I think it was what had got me was he liked me so much. And I would say that a lot in the beginning of the relationship. In the beginning of the relationship, I didn't know if I liked him back or if I just liked how much that he liked me. And so
I think that's a good point that you bring up, because you had your glow up, and before the glow up, you probably didn't get a lot of male attention, right? So he's probably one of the first men to actually give you that type of attention you never had, which was really desirable for you. But when it comes to the dating space, the dynamics are completely different between like ugly women, mid women, and then, the hot badass models, right? Like the super hot women out there, it's completely different. Like they're very selective because they get unlimited attention. So now that you're hot, you're getting a lot more attention. So the dynamic's going to start changing for you. And I think you started to notice that in the course of your relationship.
I did. I would always do this thing like there's actually this study that was done on men and women on what age they find the most desirable. And for men up until like 60s, it was 20 and 21. And I feel like that was like very emphasized to me. I would just be on Tinder and I could pull up Tinder and I'd be like, I promise you, at least 90% of the men over 25 I'm going to match with if I swipe right.
Yeah.
Because, that's what they find desirable. But for me, it's not even like more, I saw that I'm getting this, like more of this attention. Did I wish that maybe I had held off? Maybe. But do I regret the relationship? Maybe. No, I wouldn't even say that. I became more picky with the guys that I want because, again, even as I am right now, as you're saying, I'm getting more attention, which I am, not always the attention you want, but yes, I am getting more attention, but I'm still looking for personality above everything. And I'm still going to be looking for, because of how I am, I'm such an attention whore. I'm so in love with myself. Or like to put off the fact that I'm in love with myself. I need someone to match that energy, to understand that
so you need a guy. It sounds like you're describing a high value man, because a dude who's not a high value man isn't going to have that same energy towards himself. So you're definitely looking for more like alpha male energy versus, someone who's average or beta male.
Define high value man. I really wanted to ask you about this, actually. Please define high value man.
Well, there's a lot that goes into it. So there's a physical aspect, obviously. Okay. I think a man who is capable of violence and can turn on that side of aggression, but also have a caring, loving heart, like that equal balance of yin and yang. Again, there's no light without the dark, right? So that balance is going to be part of the equation. His intelligence, his life experience, definitely, that's a big one. No woman really likes a super young man because they lack a lot of life experience. And that's more of a feminine trait, whereas experience is a masculine trait, right? So experience is going to be part of that factor. As well as like his finances, right? A truly masculine man is going to be financially successful because that indicates a lot of other aspects. He's disciplined, he works hard. Those are all masculine traits.
So are you saying a young man can't be high value?
A young man definitely can be high value. It is much harder for a young man to obtain a high value status, though.
I don't always agree with that, though.
There's always exceptions to the rule. But generally speaking, young men are not valuable. Men, we have to build our value. Women, if you're beautiful, you are automatically valuable. No. This is great. This is one of the unfair aspects about life, that women actually have a great advantage over men. So remember how we were talking about life isn't fair, the dynamics between men and women isn't fair? Well, this is one of the most unfair things, but I don't care. I think it's valid. If a woman is 18 years old, pretty, has ass, tits, Instagram, she gets invited everywhere. She gets invited onto the $500 million yacht to go party in Mykonos, party in Ibiza, right? A man's not going to get those same invites. A man has to work his entire life to afford the $500 million yacht and to be able to even get to a place where he could DM a woman that's 18 years old, bad model status, right, to get her to come on the yacht. So women are born with the advantage.
Unless they're ugly.
Unless they're ugly, right? Well, even like mid women and ugly women are still getting that type of attention.
I know. I'd say more when it comes to ugly women, there's going to be men that will do something with them, but they'll keep it. the woman is the one that they'll take to the bed but not take home. When she's ugly, he won't tell her friends about them. So I don't agree that there's like an advantage. Maybe there's an advantage if you're an attractive woman, but if you're ugly, if you're...
There's still an advantage just being a woman in general. And I can tell you firsthand right now, I've interviewed a woman who was a, what's the term?
Whore.
Whore, but human porta potty. You know what that is? So it's a thing in Dubai where rich, like, billionaires in Dubai will fly out women from around the world so they can pay them to, like, take a shit on them.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So that's what you... Literally.
Yeah, literally.
Ew.
So this chick, she was not attractive whatsoever. She's a big girl. Like tattoos,
I mean,
like
there's
gross.
fetishes.
She getting that attention. She got all expenses, first class ticket paid to Dubai. Like she got the gold plated steak and everything like that.
Well, that's because men are gross.
Well, yeah, but still, like men aren't born with that type of advantage.
I saw someone ask this to you, but who set that system up?
Who said what system?
The system where these women are at an advantage because they're seen as more attractive, they're invited to more of these things. But who set that system
It's
up?
men that set the system up.
Okay, so what do you mean they're at an advantage? They set themselves to be at a disadvantage? Is what you're saying?
Are you referring to men?
I feel like for men to even have set the system up for women to be at an advantage because of their looks, men are already at an advantage because they were able to set up the system.
To answer your question, we're talking about men who have built themselves, right? Their entire life to build their status, to build their wealth, to build their finances in order to be able to make those dynamics.
No, I wouldn't even say that. That needs to be the case.
How so?
Because I'd say that's set up by a patriarchal society. So like even something can trend on just social media. You don't have to be rich for that to happen. You don't have to be rich to make a statement that goes viral. And suddenly someone, I mean, I remember early 2000s.
Keep going. I'm going to do something. They turn off the AC on the weekends, and it gets so hot in here. So I'm going to take an ice water. Would you like a water?
I think I'm good.
This is
for
a
now.
cold water.
Fine. Crap. You made me lose my train of thought.
Sorry, it's hot, so I'm going to let
What
that
was I
open.
thinking? What was I saying?
Yeah, what were you saying?
What did you say?
We were talking about, you brought up like patriarchal society.
Oh yeah, so I'm saying it doesn't have to, I mean, the men who set up that system, you don't have to set up this system. Oh, so I was saying maybe like back in the 90s, early 2000s, you know, before my time, probably around your time because you're up there. So
29 years old, like in a few days. So.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Ew, you're Leo. Oh my God, you're Leo. I mean, I'm not into zodiacs, but I'm not like that. But I'm just saying,
Oh my God.
stereotypical
You're an
Leos.
asparagus? Ugh, I can't date you. God. That's how you sound.
No, I'm just saying that checks out.
I
No,
don't
just the
follow
stereotype
myself.
around it. Me either. I can't tell you all of them, but just the stereotype around it. Just arrogance. I'm like, oh yeah, I see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
But fuck. Okay, so yeah, back in around your time. Growing up, what was the ideal woman growing up in your time? If you looked on TV, what did everyone aspire to be? What was a model? What did she look like? Describe her, other than white.
Other than white, why does race matter?
No, I'm just saying if that was going to be included in your like description. I'm just saying physically, body-wise, what was the ideal body growing up?
I think it depends. I mean, at least for me, it's maintained the same, like tall model look.
Exactly, yeah. So skinny was the word you're looking for. Skinny. So,
Yeah.
okay, so, and now have you noticed that it's less that way? It's less,
There's less skinny people.
or they're less fetishized nowadays, women, where more they're leaning towards fat ass, big boobs, like thick is like the ideal right now. Okay, so I was saying that's a system set up by men.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
So
but it doesn't
let's get into
attract them.
why, at least men in the U.S., because again, it's much different
Oh, yeah.
when you go around the world, like especially Europe. Nobody's fucking fat in Europe, right?
American.
Yeah, obesity, well, Canadian and like English too, but yeah, I mean, mostly it's an American issue, right? So I think that's why it's changing the attraction dynamics. But I think it's safe to say being fat is just not healthy, which automatically makes you a less valuable person in general. Because if you don't take care of yourself and you're just fat and out of shape, like you don't offer too much to society at that point.
I don't always agree because it's not always easy. I feel like it's easy to speak as someone who isn't fat or someone who doesn't have to deal. Like there are mental disorders. There are, you can have lymphedema, you can have emphysema that can make you fat, and there are some people who just can't lose the weight. It's different from someone who maybe isn't trying to lose the weight. But
Well, see, a lot of people bring up these like medical excuses, right? But you look at those people who are fat, who have those medical issues, use those issues as an excuse. What do they eat? Bunch of fucking fast food every single week. I bet you if they fasted for 3 days every single month and, actually ate healthy, a clean diet, they'd lose a lot of that.
I feel like that's a lot easier to say through a looking glass when you're not someone who's dealing with any of these medical conditions or someone who has been fat in their life. Like,
I've also known people and I've interviewed people who have had those medical conditions but figured out a way.
but knowing them isn't the same as experiencing them yourself.
Yeah, sure. But at the
easier.
end of the day, it's an excuse. It's cope because, being born with one of those conditions doesn't mean that you're just automatically going to be an obese person. Like there's world champion weightlifters out there who like they're huge, right? And they got big guts and everything like that, but they still like put in the effort to be in some type of shape. It just looks a little bit different, but they're not just an out of shape fat piece of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's also easier said than done. I mean, I also agree with.
Everything's easier said than done.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. So I feel like it's
So
not just
let
to
me
say,
give you a
well, they
prime
can
example.
fast.
See that scar on my wrist right there?
No. You call that a scar?
I've taken very good care of it.
Okay.
Okay. Lot of different oils and stuff, and I feel like I can get it to fully disappear. But the moral of the story is that was from surgery. So I've actually occurred a lot of injuries in my lifetime in the military, and there was a period of my military career where I couldn't do shit because I was recovering from surgeries, like different injuries and whatnot, right?
And you did let yourself get fat,
I let myself get fat.
but not too fat. And I was able to build myself back to where I was. Again, that's
Yeah.
easier said than done. And you can say
Well,
that someone
you know what I did? I
lacks that
decided to
value,
put
though.
in some discipline, and I stopped eating shit. I stopped barbecuing. I was barbecuing out the wazoo, man. I was having some smoked meat like
Sounds
every single
amazing.
week. It was awesome, right? But I'm like, what's more valuable to me? Like being happy, eating shit, like being lazy, like playing video games and stuff like that.
Oh, video games.
Fuck no. So I stopped all that shit. I stopped watching TV. Like I don't watch movies anymore. The only time I ever watch something is when I'm with a chick, and that's like what she wants to do. I just had sex with her, so I'm like, oh, okay,
So might
fine.
as well entertain her.
Yeah, God, let's just watch a movie.
So along that line of conversation, I guess. So you're saying a person who has these nasty habits, they lack value. They lack value with that because of those nasty habits that cause them to be fat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so would you say that from my body alone that I lack value in that way because I'm skinny, that adds value, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, but I have the same habits as a fat person, which is why I'm not saying that it's always the same. I lack discipline. I don't go to the gym the way I should. I don't eat the way I should.
You're
all the
also
time.
20 years old, so that could easily change.
That can
When I was 20
change.
years old, I didn't need to work out, and I could eat whatever the hell I wanted, and I'd still be in shape.
Yeah,
But-
exactly. So how are you going to say that that makes someone valuable or not just because of these nasty habits when you can just look at someone and you're immediately judging them?
Well, you got it easy right now, okay? Now, say, 5 years from now, your body changes, you keep up your same routine.
I'd sooner kill myself. But
Yeah,
anyways,
see, so you wouldn't want to make yourself look that way. So you would start putting in more effort to prevent yourself from looking that way.
no, I said I'd kill myself. If I get fat, I will kill myself.
Instead of just not.
No, that's
eating
what I'm
like
saying
shit.
because I lack the motivation to do that. Like, I wish I could. I totally wish I could.
Mm-hmm.
But I lack that motivation. But judging, I mean, you're just automatically saying you see a skinny person next to a fat person. You're assuming that the fat person let themselves go.
Mm-hmm.
Someone could be fat and 20 and fat and skinny. I mean, fat, 20 and skinny. And then you're automatically putting these labels, oh, they lack value. They don't work out. Versus, I mean, that's not always the case.
No, it is the case. Now, again, there's going to be nice. there's going to always be exceptions, like someone who is like handicapped and like mentally disabled, right? Like, hey, sure, that's an exception. But shit, I know guys who are like got their legs blown off in Afghanistan. They don't have legs, but you know what they do? They eat healthy and they still work out their upper body so they can maintain some type of form. So everything you're saying is just excuses and cope.
What's the excuse part?
There's different excuses you're mentioning for like why a person would be fat. There really isn't an excuse for it. Like, go over to Europe. You rarely see any fat people.
Okay, so you're calling it an excuse when I'm saying a skinny person could eat the same thing. It's an excuse that a fat person has a slower metabolism than them. That's an excuse. So I don't see how you're assigning these values.
Some people are born blessed with better genetics, right? So you get the upper hand. But bottom line is, like, any person, no matter your genetics, if you allow yourself to become overweight and fat, out of shape, like, that's all on you.
Yeah, but I'm saying that a skinny person and a fat person could have the exact same lifestyle. And like you said, they have that genetic advantage. They're just lucky.
Yeah.
So that value that you're just immediately assuming from looking at these two people, that this person's a higher value because look at their body. It doesn't make sense because.
No, it makes perfect sense.
How?
So, hey,
how am I any higher value than a fat person?
Let's look at, because like right now you don't need to worry about putting in all that effort. Right? So, hey, that's something you don't have to worry about. But if you weren't that type of person and you just allowed yourself to get fat, like, you know that's unhealthy. You know that's lazy. So there's no excuse at that point.
I'm not saying that. Oh, I don't want to be fat either. That's like my biggest fear. I literally got a permanent waist chain so that I cannot grow. Like, I do not want to gain weight. That's like I said, is my biggest fear. But I'm saying you assigning more value to a skinny person when you don't know their situation. You haven't experienced, you haven't been in their shoes. So a fat person, a skinny person, you look at them and you're immediately judging a book by its cover when I don't think that you should be.
That's fair to judge.
It's fair to judge?
Yeah.
Why is that?
So, also, like, with a person who's ultra skinny, that's a problem too. Overall, you want to be a healthy person, right? Like, you're very slim, right? But you're not unhealthy skinny.
Don't say that. I want to be. Sorry.
No, you don't. That's coke. That's a lie.
I don't know.
But it comes down to a matter of, like, being healthy. So, yeah, a naturally healthy person is going to fall into the middle of, like, being smaller. Now, like, as a man, you can put on some muscle, right? I mean, women put on muscle too. But an ultra, like, skinny anorexic person, you know, that's the issue as well. Like, that's almost equally as bad as being obese.
Yeah, but you said naturally healthy. There's no such thing as naturally healthy.
Well, you have to put in the effort to be healthy.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So I feel like that's an oxymoron. You can't be naturally healthy.
Well, again, we're, like, influenced by a lot of, you know, the fast food, processed food in general. I mean, look, go to the store, buy a loaf of bread in the U.S. It's got like 30 ingredients in it, right? Go to Europe, buy a loaf of bread there. It's got 3 ingredients.
Oh, I'd also, along that line, I'd also say some things are easier and more accessible depending on where you are. Growing up, you can't always make sure. Like, if you're growing into an impoverished family, you can't always ensure what's going in your mouth. That's not controlled by you. You can't control the fact that maybe what you're eating is making you fat. That's not something that everyone can control.
Well, yeah, yes, so as a child growing up, of course.
And then, of course, you're saying when you're older, you might as well work out. But again, it's not always, all these healthy, accessible foods. Fast foods, it's desirable because it's fast, it's easy, it's cheap versus some more healthy things. Like, there's a reason why organic foods are more expensive. Mm-hmm. And it's not always, having a healthy lifestyle, someone being vegan or vegetarian, it's not always accessible for everyone. I feel like that's a closed-minded way to think.
So if you're the type of person where that's not accessible for you, like especially as a dude, and you're just giving excuses as to why that is, that's a lack of masculinity right there. Like, any masculine man is going to figure out a way to not be fat and lazy. Like, he'll figure out a way to make more money. He'll fast. Like, I used to go like every other day without eating. I did that for a month straight. Like, you can do it. It's not unhealthy for you. But, like, people love to make excuses as to why they are the way that they look. And bottom line is, it's just excuses. It's cope, and that makes you less valuable.